Welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com, or if you're watching this on our rapidly growing YouTube channel, that's Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Brandon P. Joining me today is our very own publisher, Mr. Andrew Jones. And AJ, you usually have a pretty different point of view from the game. Can you just explain to people why do we have a different background today? Why aren't you at the stadium or the arena?
Yeah, literally point of view. Actually, there's a conflict right now. I had to let our subscribers know I'm not in Portland this weekend because Carolina has a pretty big football game on Friday. And a couple times a year at the most, I have to choose one or the other because I can't be two places at once. And as big as these basketball games are, journalistically, we need to be at the football game, chance to win 10 games for Carolina.
Yeah.
Drake still in that conversation. I just think a football game against your biggest football rival carries more weight than November basketball games, regardless of who they're playing. Now, last year they played Wofford the same weekend the basketball team was at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, and I went up there for that because it was just against Wofford. But if it's NC State, I've got to be at the football game. It's an obligation I have journalistically and to our Football First subscribers. So I will be in Indiana next week, and then I'll be in Blacksburg after I cover the football game the night before in Charlotte. So I'll be everywhere else unless there's a bowl conflict. But this is one weekend or one time a year where I'm actually at my home watching the game. And Brandon, it's really weird. It's really, I had to do this a couple times during the COVID year because like a Duke, they didn't allow media, and I had that ice storm, couldn't get up to UVA, and it's really weird watching from home. I don't feel as connected to it as I need to, but all that being said, in this particular performance, I think I'd have the same gauge of what I saw from the Tar Heels as I would if I was courtside or somewhere in the media section in Portland.
Yes, speaking of the game, we just watched North Carolina improve to 5-0 in this season, defeating Portland 89-81. North Carolina had a pretty good offensive performance, shooting 53.4% from the field and 50% from the three-point line, and that effort was led by Caleb Love and Pete Nance. AJ, I thought those two kept the Tar Heels in the game, kept them afloat for most of the game, and then was mostly responsible for putting them away. So what do you think about the play of Caleb Love and Pete Nance today?
Well, they were huge, and they're why they won the game. And they needed, what do they combine for? 51 points.
Yes.
They were 18 for 28 from the field. And think about it. They needed those two guys to go off in order to beat Portland. So that says a lot about the whole situation on the court for the Tar Heels today. But I'll tell you, I'll start with Pete Nance. We're trying to learn his game. And I really thought that we finally got a chance to see more of a range with what he can do today. He scored getting the ball at a lot of different spots on the floor. And I think that that's the whole of the game that his teammates have been talking about. Hubert's been talking about. He had that little jump hook in the first half. He had a couple get the ball on the block, make a little bit of a move and score. He had a couple of short jumpers, and he was hitting threes. And I'll tell you, one of the things that some of us in the media had talked about the first few games is that he's got a really slow release from the perimeter. Carolina fans, I'm sure, who thought that he was a little bit more like Brady were like, wow, Brady had the quickest release you've ever seen from the perimeter. Pete's is not quick at all. We saw a pretty quick trigger on two of his threes today, and he made them both. And actually three, he missed another one, a little bit on the line. He missed the other one. But if he can shoot that quickly and that accurately moving forward, that's going to change this team based on what some of us started thinking, what shape they might take. Because if he could actually be a stretch guy, and I still think the book is out, whether he's a consistent 32-minute a game stretch guy, that can make this team very dangerous because it could open up a little bit more driving room for Caleb and RJ, and they need to shoot the ball better from the three than they did in the first four games. Caleb was struggling. The only guy that's really shot above expectation has been Leaky.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're going to want to ride Leaky to the winner's circle with his shooting. He can help, and he's a great defensive player, but they need Pete Nance to show his bag, as Caleb calls it. And I think we saw a lot in his bag today. As far as Caleb goes, he told me last Sunday, he admitted that he was very frustrated, really frustrated with his shooting. He was 5 for 27 from three in the first four games. Didn't look like he may have forced some shots from out there trying to get himself going. Because remember, the line last year in the NCAA tournament, and Brady Manick said it, and he wasn't joking. He said, Caleb can miss 19 straight from the perimeter, but we have full confidence that the 20th is going in, and then he'll hit 6 straight. We saw that against UCLA. We saw that against Duke. And I think Caleb was trying to shoot himself into that. And it's a different year now. He's got to approach things a little bit differently. He can't go back and try to grab that March magic, which I think this team has been doing. And I thought he took a big step forward in that today. He played really well. There was a ton of bounce and juice in his game. He was aware. He was finding teammates. He finished with 4 assists. Should have had more. Guys didn't convert on times when Caleb found them and got them really good looks because he found them. I like when he picked and chose when to drive, and as he calls it, going downhill, and when he chose to shoot from the perimeter. He had 23 points and only attempted 4 threes. That's a good sign. That means there was good shot selection. He wasn't rushing things. He played with a clear mind. I think he had a good week. And acknowledging that there was some frustration may have been good for him. Sometimes these guys are a little bit guarded. They need to get stuff out. And I do think this team is pretty good with the interviews, as you know, Brandon. I think they're going to tell us a lot of stuff. So I think it was a really, really important performance from Caleb to cut the cord from some wobbly stuff in the first 4 games. So those two being big is a really good sign. It means that they can also play off of each other as well. And having Pete step up with his second 20-point game now. No, I think he had 18 in another game. Yeah. That also suggests that fourth capable big time scorer like Brady was at times is there. So this team truly does have the components to do what they did a year ago in the postseason, but they're a long, long way from being that club right now, as we saw today.
Actually, AJ, this is kind of random, but something I want to ask you about. I was on Twitter yesterday, actually, and I saw that Tar Heel Illustrated posted something with NIL Fanbox. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, we have this Black Friday thing going with we've partnered with NIL Fanbox. We had season 1 was back in the spring. We launched it actually the week of the ACC tournament, I think, and it went really, really well. Season 2 is much better. They have improved everything they're doing. They've got a lot of stuff. I was supposed to be at their photo shoot and video shoot a few weeks ago when they were in Chapel Hill. Couldn't go. Had some complications step in the way. But they've got the 5 starters in basketball plus Puff. A lot of stuff from Tyler Hansbrough. They're going to get Drake May and Josh Downs, and a lot of really neat stuff that is available. They're different levels. So you guys, we have a link. We'll put it in here in the video and in the description of the video. It's also on our site at tarheelillustrated.com. It runs through 5:30 Friday, when the basketball team is supposed to tip against either Villanova or Iowa State. That'll be halftime of the football game. It's a phenomenal deal. It enables fans to take a little bit of control over the NIL reservoir, if you will, for the players. The players get paid off of this. We don't pay the players. We're not involved in that. We're just pushing that stuff out there for NIL Fanbox because of our partnership. But Carolina needs more money in its collective. They need help with the NIL. Mac Brown's talked about it, and Hubert hasn't, but I know that it may not be as big issue with basketball as it is for football, but it's all a big pot. And fans have a chance to actually take a little bit of control and play a role in that by signing up for Fanbox. You get some phenomenal, fully authenticated stuff. We have videos on our YouTube channel of the kids signing, so you can see how authentic it was, how much fun they had. So go to our site, sign up. It ends 5:30 Friday. Remember, the promo code is Tar Heels, and Carolina fans get to save money when they use that promo code.
All right, thank you, AJ. Now I know more. So, AJ, we talked about the Carolina's offensive performance. Them shooting 53%, and that's typical Carolina basketball. And another area that's typical Carolina basketball is the team's rebounding. Today, they out rebounded Portland 39-23 and 12-5 on the offensive rebounds. So Carolina's starting to get back into their normal groove of offensive rebounding, getting back to the tradition of offensive rebounding. What did you think about their performance on the glass today, AJ?
Well, for a team that didn't have a lot of juice consistently, I think the numbers turned out pretty well for them. They needed to have a demonstrative edge on the glass in a game to show that some parts are starting to come together. I think, to me, the most stunning and concerning, if you're going to be concerned 4 games in, the one area would have been rebounding. because they went into this game only plus 10 over its first four opponents, who were not exactly big interior juggernauts. It wasn't like they were playing Big 10 and Big 12 teams in the first four games. And they were minus considerably on the offensive end. So plus 16 is good. Armando had 13. Took him a while to get going on the glass, but I thought he was really good in the second half on the glass. And having that 12-5 edge, that means that they cut 7 off of their deficiency. And this is still an amazing stat, Brandon. But Carolina is -6 on the season on the offensive glass, 5 games into the season, but they were +7 today. They were +9 in second chance points, 12-3. So, they're moving some parts forward. And quite frankly, as much as people are concerned, as much as Twitter was not happy today with the performance, it's just 5 games in. This is a long season. There are some things to be a little bit concerned about and maybe question, but it was a really good sign that the rebounding took a step forward. We'll learn a lot more about this team on the glass the next 2 games, really the next 4 games, but certainly 2 more games in Portland, as they have a very big game Friday against either Villanova or Iowa State, and they could end up playing a real monster on Sunday as they close out the event. So, and by the way, we should note that Armando passed Kennedy Meeks. He's now 5th all-time on the UNC rebounding list, and I should have noted as well, Caleb passed the 1,000-point mark. I think he's the 72nd player in Carolina history to score 1,000 points. I should have said that a few minutes ago.
Yeah. AJ, you're right. There is a lot of concern with this team. It's another close game with another mid-major program. The defense is kind of lacking, and there's just a lack of effort out there. I'm not effort. I'm sorry, a lack of energy out there. What do you think is a problem with the defense and the energy and the intensity that this team is coming with?
Yeah, sometimes people mistake energy from bad effort, and I don't think it is. I think a lot of it's mental. I mean, everything you do in life starts up here. It triggers the entire everything, right? So I just think that they're still kind of cutting that cord. It's a big, thick cord, and they're slowly cutting away. If you get scissors and you try to cut something, it takes a while. They're kind of cutting away at this massive cord to what they did in the NCAA tournament last year, something Hubert alluded to, about maybe 10 days ago, 9 days ago. And I just think it's going to take some time. Perhaps the best thing this club needs is to face a Villanova or an Iowa State and take on a UConn or a Michigan State and really get pushed around and be forced to dig deep and play to win that day, instead of trying to be what they were 8 months ago, because they're not that team anymore. They are a different club, as I've said multiple times. This group launching point for the season is far different than it was a year ago. Individually, with their individual aspirations, with where a lot of these guys want to be in 12 months from now, and also from the team standpoint. So they have to eventually align all of that stuff, and you can't do it until that cord is fully cut. I believe that there's a chance it happens this weekend in Portland, but I do think the energy issue is part of that, and you see energy show up in two areas. Number one, rebounding. Well, they weren't great rebounding for a while today. They were okay. They ended up winning by getting plus 16, which is fine. Their goal is to be plus 15 every game. The other thing is on the defensive end, and they were really bad defensively at times. I mean, really bad. And it didn't look like there was a lot of want to out there. I just think there's a little bit of a mental fog that they're working through, and it shows up on the defensive end. But you know what, Brandon? They did get better late in the game. At one point, Portland was 22 for 38 from the floor, which is like 58%. Guess what? Portland was 6 for its last 20. Its shots were a little bit more challenged. There weren't as many threes. Some of those threes turned into one dribble, 16, 17, 18 footers, and they were missing off the back of the rim because they were rushing a little bit more because their shots were contested a little bit more. So I think that they kind of closed well because they were a little bit better offensively, and more guys got involved offensively late, and they did a little bit better on the defensive end, and they were clearing the glass as well. So I think they closed well, and they can only close well if they got better defensively. They did that. They went on that 14-3 run or whatever it was, and a big part of that was defense as much as it was converting on the other end, because runs are always started by defense, as most people know. The offense then just takes advantage and complements it. So They were bad defensively. They haven't been great defensively. I don't know why they didn't switch more, because when they have switched earlier this year, certainly in the UNCW game, they were really effective, but that was UNCW. I don't know if Portland's a better team or not. I know that they were beaten by 12 points by Seattle, but they also had a competitive game, I think, against Kent State, which is an okay team. So we don't really know about a lot of these clubs yet. What we do know is Carolina's played 5 games against low mid-majors, and the Tar Heels haven't been overwhelming at all. They've been largely underwhelming in a lot of areas with some flare-ups here and there. What they need is for those flare-ups to all kind of rise up simultaneously and march forward like they did late last season. And they have to carry it for a while. And let me throw one more comment in too. I know we're doing 3 things, but Hubert's got to play his bench more.
Yeah.
He said, and I'm using his words, he said, the bench is a great motivator, but we haven't seen him use it, because he Gardner Webb was an example to use it, as Roy would have been. I don't want to compare him to Roy. I don't think it's fair, but it's not like Roy's the only guy that ever did that. We've seen a lot of coaches use the bench as a motivator. There were times against James Madison early in the second half, use the bench as a motivator. There were times today, use the bench as a motivator. They got 27 minutes and 3 points from the bench today. He can't go on and talk about how much depth he has if he's not going to use it. Use that bench as a motivator, get some other guys out there. And I think what you'll find is if you don't use the bench, then guys, when they enter the game, they're not as confident as they should be. So that's something he's going to have to get worked out. He says he's got a lot of depth. I believe he does, but you got to use that depth. And the starters would benefit as well. Yeah. Maybe they wouldn't have those coast stretches, which some people think that they're having, because they're pacing themselves. 5 games in, they haven't gotten a ton from the bench, and they need to get more. They got 4 more games between now and next Sunday. They're all away. The next 4 are going to be against really good teams, and 2 on the road. They're going to need the bench. So he needs to start playing the bench more.
Yeah, AJ, there's certainly a lot of room for improvement. But like our friend Jacob Turner says on Twitter, North Carolina may not be the best team in the country now, but you don't want to be the best team in the country in November. You want to be the best team in February, March, and April. So
if he plays the bench, then they have a better chance of being the best team in March.
That is true.
I'm going to lay it out there.
Yeah, we saw that.
And I'm not picking on Hubert at all. I'm using his words.
Yeah. But AJ, I think
see how that plays out.
I think that's a good place to stop. Again, North Carolina beat Portland 89-81 in the opening round of the Phil Knight Invitational out there in Portland. They'll either play Iowa State or Villanova at 5:30 tomorrow. 5:30 tomorrow. So me and AJ will actually be at the football game tomorrow. But thank you for watching. I've been Brandon P. He's Andrew Jones. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.